Afternoon, everyone. We have Manager Bud Black here. If you have questions for Bud, go ahead and raise your hands and we'll jump in. Patrick, start us off.
Good afternoon, buddy.
Good afternoon, Patrick.
You've touched on this a little bit, but I wanted to revisit it. For a number of guys, you've mentioned that these last few weeks of the season, you guys are going to be evaluating, of course. I don't expect you to go through every reliever in your bullpen, but for the guys who are, in my word, kind of in limbo right now, what are the things you're going to be looking for over the last 6-7 weeks of the season from the less established relievers?
Well, I think first of all, performance, right? And there's a lot of different ways that we look at performance through our critical eye as baseball men. There are measurables for sure, that we can gain from radar guns, TrackMan, Rapsodo. All those measurables are easy to evaluate, but also, in our case, true performance, right? We can, for instance, Patrick, we can see a pitcher that pitches an inning, a reliever. I think you're talking about relief pitchers that they give up 3 missiles, right? Line drive to right, bullet to center, absolute rocket to left. In the box score, it's going to say, hey, 1 inning, no hits, no runs, no walks, no strikeouts. And somebody might say, hey, good outing, got away, good job. But that's really not a good outing, right? He maybe got fortunate in, where the ball was hit. So we're going to really, and we do this all the time anyway, have a hard look at, our players. I mean, what position players do in early work and practice, how it translates into the game. Our side sessions with pitcher, every pitch they throw. So, we're watching. So it's not unlike, what we do the whole season anyway, from first day of spring training to the end. I mean, it's, and you've heard me say this before, that, every day is a test, every day. And even in the off season, when guys are working and trying to get better, they're, eventually the results of that, for lack of a better term, homework is tested in spring training during the regular season. So we're watching, but, we're hoping for marked improvement in some of the things that, we've talked about with our players about expectations and goals and challenges, put in front of them to see if they have made strides in, the work that they're doing or trying to accomplish, the adjustments that they're trying to make. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense.
Okay.
For those of us who are not on the inside, and the only things we can really go by are what we see with our eyes.
Sure.
We don't. The things that I would imagine stick out from our perspective would be walk rates.
Yes.
Actually, whip.
Walk rates, whip. I love whip. I love hits to innings pitched. I love true strikeout numbers.
How about inherited runners?
Yes, I mean that can be over time. That can be a pretty good. Value number. But again, it's how bases loaded, broken bat, flare down the right field line. Right, made a good pitch. Just out of the second baseman reaches for the ball, doesn't get it. It drops, spins down against the wall, and 3-run score. Right, I mean it's a bad break for both the pitcher who left the 3 runs on and the inherited runner number for the relief pitcher. So we track all those things, but inherited runners, okay. I mean, it's tough to go a whole year and get lucky or be unlucky, right? So we watch those, but some of the old school walks, innings pitched, hits per innings pitched, strikeouts innings pitched, all those are good or reliable numbers for for sure. And you know, the walks and strikeouts don't lie.
Thanks, buddy.
Yep.
Thomas Harding.
Yeah, buddy, kind of wanted to go back and talk a little bit about about Kyle Freeland and the run that he's on now. When he came out of 2018, this is a guy who felt like he was, you know, one of the better pitchers, should be at a top of a rotation. Even when he was struggling, did that ever go away, or did you feel like, you know, he knew who he was and he was going to get back to being who he was?
Well, I think he's always had the confidence, but it was, you know, it tested him in 19, right? I think he got to the point where, you know, he knew he needed to make adjustments, and he did. I mean, he wasn't stubborn enough to, you know, to not realize that some things had to change based on what was happening in 19. And he put his best foot forward. He put his best foot forward to make those changes. I think as the person, he never lost confidence in himself to be the pitcher that he knows he can be. But, you know, the 19 season stood him up a little bit, and it made him realize that this truly is a game of, and he's made it.
This season, he struggled a bit coming back. And just from talking to him, he never really lost confidence. What do you feel is the most important thing that he did to kind of get back on the horse?
Well, I think from a pure fundamental standpoint, he started getting the ball over the plate at a higher rate. I think those first few games, you saw the walk rate, you saw the ball missing in the strike zone. You know, when you're missing the strike zone, you're pitching behind the count. Then he's trying to, you know, make perfect pitches on 2-0, 3-1, 3-2, and can't pitch that way. And for whatever reason, he came out of the chute, maybe not totally ready, whether physically or mentally. And then it took him, you know, 4 starts, I think, to get back on track about mentally getting the ball, telling himself, hey, I got to throw more strikes. I need first pitch strikes. I need early count, attack outs. And I think with that mindset, I think you started to see things turn around.
Does his year kind of illustrate the importance of spring training to a pitcher? I know a lot of times hitters will talk about that it's just too long, but for pitchers, he didn't really have a spring training. And do you feel like that maybe this year kind of shows that, you know, there is some worth to all that time spent in?
Well, you know, with, you know, again, this is another topic, another discussion, but in a nutshell, starting pitchers need 6 weeks of spring to get ready to be fully loaded for the season. By that, I mean pitch count, pitches in order, stamina, you know, mentally and physically to be able to withstand the rigors of 6 months of pitching. You need the 6 weeks. So the 5 starters who make your big league team, the 5 starters who are in AAA, you know, a couple maybe AA, A-ball pitchers who are starters, they need the 6 weeks. Relievers don't need all that time. You can probably shave that down to 4 weeks. And position players with the number of at-bats they need, you know, the time that they need to get their hands ready for the season, the blisters, the calluses, the repetitions of swings in the cage, batting practice, simulated games, machine work, game at-bats. You could probably get that done in 3.5 weeks, maybe 3 to 4 weeks for position players. And their legs, you know, ground balls, you know, running the bases, you know, playing 9 innings, stamina there. They probably don't need 6 weeks, probably anywhere from 3 to 4 for position players. But to the original point, 6 weeks for sure for starting pitching. You can't lessen that number.
Yeah, and I guess in his particular case, what do you feel that the time off cost him?
Well, he had to be shut down to let the shoulder heal. And when you completely shut down the muscle, you shut down the mechanism that he needs to throw his arm. I mean, there's there's going to be a little atrophy, and you need to build all that back up. You need to build the strength back in the shoulder, and that takes time. You know, I think there's a old equation for every day that you're down as a player, and I mean down, I mean not doing anything, no exercises, no rehab. It takes 3 full days of rehab and strength building to come back. So that, 1 to 3 ratio is, been a sort of a guideline for trainers and doctors and baseball people to, on the rehab side to bring guys back. So he missed time, and when he came back, he probably wasn't as sharp. He might not have been as strong. You just can't, really, get the type of intensity coming through a rehab program as you do in spring training with, the game competition against other clubs, really hitting on all cylinders the last couple of weeks of spring training. There's really no, way to duplicate it, on a rehab track.
Okay, hey, one more from me. You mentioned yesterday that some of the lower service time players, one of the things you were looking at is the difference in home and road performance. Now, we've seen star players that obviously the traditional numbers are different home and road. But what are some of the things that you're looking at? Is it in the numbers? Is it in the quality of some things that maybe you're looking at on the inside?
Well, I don't know if there's anything really different. I mean, we want to really try to stay away from, the drastic splits are a little concerning. We got to really identify why that's happening. There's going to be a natural gap here and on the road in Denver, and it's the same with other organizations based on where they play. So we just got to really bear down on why some of the huge splits are happening, and that's our process to go through and really understand why that's happening.
Well, that's one for me on those lines. Have you maybe come up with some new ideas or new hypotheses you'll be checking out to see if maybe you can get to some different answers here?
Yeah, we're always talking about it, Thomas. I mean, we talk about that internally. I think the Rockies organization has talked about that since probably after year 1 and year 2, when they noticed maybe some bigger discrepancies in numbers. So, but we continue to try to get better in our process of how to do better statistically on the road. And a lot of it, I've shared with you, some of the machine work we do on the road, early work we do on the road, conversations amongst the players, their thoughts, and we're still trying to create, more processes to be better.